Okay, now being 6 o'clock, I'll call the February 23rd meeting of the Old Colony Planning Council to order. First item is, can I do the accessibility statement, Mary?
Oh, yep, Megan.
There we go. Okay. This meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Microphones or telephones will be used by all speakers. Large print materials are available upon request. If you would like either of these accommodations, please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833, extension 202. The notice of non-discrimination rights and protections to beneficiaries with regard to the Title VI non-discrimination protections and the state non-discrimination protections is posted in this meeting room and available on the Old Colony Old Planning Council website. Please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833, extension 202 for more information. So with that, does Sandra want to do the roll call?
I most certainly do.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
If we could mute that, please. Thank you.
We just unmuted it. This is a technological problem here for all of us. So
It's okay.
Are we all set?
We are now.
Abington,
Delegate present.
Avon,
Delegate and alternate.
Bridgewater, Delegate, Brockton,
alternate,
Duxbury, East Bridgewater,
Delegate present.
Easton, Halifax, Hanson,
Present.
Kingston, delegate or alternate?
Delegate.
Thank you. Kingston, Pembroke, alternate, Plymouth, Stoughton,
Yeah, present. Delegate.
West
Bridgewater.
Bridgewater. Is West Bridgewater here?
Yeah, Sheldon.
Oh, okay. And Whitman. Thank you.
Delegate Whitman.
Thank you.
And you got me too, right, Sandy?
I did I say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say. you
That's
were-
all right. No worries. No worries.
I'm sorry, for some reason, I crossed Plimpton off. I thought it was the other Plymouth. So Plimpton delegate. Thank you.
That's all right. Perfect. Thank you.
And Madam President, just for the record, for staff, besides myself, we have Frank, we have Charlie Kilmer, we have, I'm trying to go through my staff here, Brenda Robeson, we have Dottie Fucinetti, we have Lori Musi and Ray Garino, and we have Megan Fournier, who is going to be conducting all the PowerPoints. There are a couple people on this meeting that I do not know who they are. If they can identify themselves, Samantha, if you can unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm a BU student. We are doing a project with the Old Council Policy Committee, and so some of us are just here to sit in on your
Perfect.
meeting and learn.
Thank you, Samantha. I didn't know you guys were coming, but this is great to
Oh.
have you. And I'm just going to ask, I'm going to make sure I pronounce this correctly. It is going to be Abduzem Ahmad Aklomo.
Hi, it's Abdelazim. Hi,
Thank you.
I'm also with Samantha. We're in the same class. We're all actually on the same team, taking
Yes.
part in the same pod. Yeah, we'll be listening in on this meeting today, if you guys don't mind.
No, not at all. Thank you for being here. And when we come to staff report, I'll have Dottie just touch upon some of the things that you guys are going to be doing. So this is great. And I just want for the secretary, for Sandra Wright, to please note that delegate from Brockton, Sydney Marrow has joined us. So Madam
Okay.
President, I believe that we are now complete.
Stoughton
Great, well,
delegates here too.
Oh, sorry.
Doug,
Sorry about that.
perfect.
Oh,
Awesome.
thank God.
Excellent. All right. Well, welcome everyone. It's nice to have so many people here with us tonight, and we do have a special guest. So we're going to be taking Representative Murator out of order. So Mary, did you want to do an introduction?
I most certainly will. So first and foremost, well, in our original agenda, we had promoted the representative to senator. So I want to just welcome whichever role he would like to be here today. But today he's here as Representative Matthew Murator. He is a Republican from the 1st Plymouth District. I've had the pleasure of getting a chance to get to know the representative through a number of the Plymouth Area Chamber events. And when he was speaking, it certainly was a lot of the things that we do here at Old Colony Planning Council. So when I approached him after and I said, would you like to come to our council meeting? He welcomed the chance, but he was first elected to the House in November of 2014. He was a selectman in the town of Plymouth from May of 2010 to 2015 and served as a chair of the board from 2012 to 2014. The representative serves on the House Committee on Ways and Means, on the Joint Committee of Tourism, Arts and Cultural Development. He's a ranking member of the Minority Party, the Healthcare Financing. He's just on, I think the one committee that I really drew us to was the Municipalities and Regional Government. And having that, the Workability Subcommittee, we provided his bio in the package to you, but I really want to be able to at least welcome the representative to come here today. He's been a strong supporter and talk about in the arena of reaching across the aisle and working together. I've seen the representatives from our whole region be able to do that. And for those of you who are at the expo, representative had been there and was a very strong supporter. So with that, I know Representative Muratori, I probably have not done you justice, but please come and provide some comments, and I hope that you'll be able to provide maybe a chance for some question and answer.
Sure. Well, thank you so much, Mary, for the introduction. Again, I'm Representative Matt Muratori from the 1st Plymouth District. One thing that she did leave out of my bio that I always like to put out there is because when people read it and they start talking about it and they start whispering, they don't listen to what I have to say, but let's get it out of the way right away. I have 6 daughters.
I did see.
Okay. Yeah, so you can imagine what my life is like. It's a lot of fun. I'm very blessed to have 6 beautiful daughters. I know some of you on this meeting. I actually know some of you, and you know my family. So I always like to get that out of the way first. So I also thought what was interesting, I didn't hear Plymouth was on the call. So I thought my friend Lee Hartman would be on here, but I think I have a feeling I know why he's probably not on. And I'll get to that in a little bit when it comes to housing. So thank you again for inviting me. Mary wanted me to take about 2 hours to actually talk about what's going on. Was it 2 hours or was it, oh no, 10 minutes, sorry. Just kidding. So I just want to touch upon some of the areas that Mary asked to highlight. First of all, I do want to say too that yesterday was the first day back at the State House. I was actually scheduled. We scheduled I know. Congratulations to us, huh? I don't know it took us so long, but I was actually scheduled to 2 informal sessions. So there's always 1 or 2 Democrats and 1 or 2 Republicans that are scheduled to do the informal sessions on Monday and Thursday. This week it happened to be the holiday, so it was Tuesday. So I was happy. I was scheduled 6 months on this date. So it was kind of exciting to go into the State House, not expecting all these people to be there, and it still was pretty dead. But it was nice that at least it was open. And we are back to work. But I'll talk about some of the changes that we did during COVID. And some of the changes coming out of COVID that may happen as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about redistricting, housing, the MBTA communities, the budget, and the continuation of virtual meetings. So first of all, just a quick update on redistricting. I know that many of you know about this, but just a quick update. So as you know, lawmakers are required to redraw districts every 10 years. So the census was done in 2020. And the increase in Massachusetts was 6.9%. So with the 2010 census, we were at 6.5 million people. Now with the 2020 census, we're a little over 7 million people here in the Commonwealth. So again, that's a 6.9% increase. As you know, the increase affects 9 congressional U.S. representatives, as well as 200 legislators, 160 reps and 40 senators. The ideal population for a representative in 2010, when the census was done, was somewhere around 41,000 people, give or take. Now with the increase, it's now jumped up to almost 44,000, give or take. There's a percentage in there that you can figure out. And for senators, state senators, it was 164,000 that they would represent, give or take. With the new census, it now goes up to 176,000. And for Congress, it was 727,000 in 2010, and now it jumps up to 781,000 in 2022. So because of the increase, this is why some of the redistricting had to happen. So the Senate, the House and the Senate, and then the governor actually signed on to all this. But what happened differently this time than in the past, the House actually took the lead on drawing up the maps. Usually it was the cities and towns that would do it first, then it would go to the state to do their part. But for some reason, they have decided that this is the new way of going to be doing it over every 10 years. So the state drew up their maps and then they presented it to the cities and towns to deal with their portion of it. So the governor signed and approved the new districts in November of 2021. And all of this becomes effective, obviously, in this year's election cycle. So I also do want to mention one more thing on that there was an addition to majority minority districts across the state, which reflects the fact that the new census data showed that Blacks, Hispanics, and Asian population were primarily responsible for the state's population growth over the last 10 years. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So there were different districts that were made up to allow for more minorities to actually run for office and actually get office. So I want to move on to just a brief update on housing. Over the last 6 months, in our area at least, and I do want to say something that Mary had to say about our delegation in this area. To all of us in this area, and it's not like it is in the rest of the Commonwealth from what I understand and what I see, but in this area, it doesn't matter, if you're a Democrat or Republican in this area, and I'm including, the Upper Cape, the South Shore area. We always, work in the best interests of our constituents. And this has been the case in this example, where it's housing. As we all know, the big three that are the issues: transportation, childcare, and housing. They all go hand in hand, and they're three issues that need to be tackled. The last 6 months, Senator Moran actually led a group of folks, including myself and Representative Lenatra, Representative Cutler. We've been having meetings on housing with experts in government, nonprofits, business communities. We include the towns of Plymouth, Plimpton, Kingston, Pembroke, and Cape Cod. And some of you, I think, have been part of some of those meetings. We've had guest speakers that included Secretary Keneally of the Housing and Economic Development, Treasurer O'Brien from Plymouth County, and representatives from Mass Housing Partnership. Most valuable, however, has been the coalescence of experience and expertise to take a truly multifaceted regional approach to ensure that everyone who wants to live in the area can afford to do so. So the climate is changing. As we know, there's a shortage of housing. And so what we're trying to do is bring people together, whether public-private partnership with housing or across town lines to work together. And I'll get into some of the money and the reasons why in a minute, but we've all seen a housing production decrease over the last 30 years, or about 50%. So that's what's really caused this crisis. And it's impacting everything. Home prices and rents, as you know, are escalating. And although 30% of the income should go towards housing, we're finding in Massachusetts that 25% of the citizens of Massachusetts, 50% of the income goes to housing expenses. Mass has addressed the housing crisis through a number of means, including 2018, we passed the housing bond bill. The 2021 economic development bond bill was passed, and through ARPA allocations, which is the Federal American Rescue Plan Act, there's more money for homeowners, first-time home buyers, affordable housing, and supportive housing. Now, to address the shortage, and I think this is why my friend Lee Hartman isn't on here. The MBTA communities multifamily zoning regulations were released in December of 2020. It's chapter 358 of the Acts of 2020. Mass Housing Partnership evaluated 261 stations and noted that only 6.2 homes per acre existed. The new proposed, and its proposed regulation requires 15 unit per acre with a minimum land of 50 acres. If you draw a circle around a train, a half mile would encompass about 500 acres for most. Non-compliant risk eligibility for local capital grants, Mass Works, and housing choice initiatives. Forms must be completed by May to remain eligible for the Mass Works and 2022 one-stop grants. The Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development did anticipate that there could be situations within a 0.5 mile radius not suitable for development, and encourage everyone who participates in participate in public comment period, and to use the online tools as well as to seek technical assistance. There are several digital tools online to help communities with a new regulation, as well as deadline information such as December 2023 for bus communities and December 2024 for MBTA and adjacent communities. Now, the key to all this, and this is what Lee Hartman and I have been speaking about, this is really disadvantage to Plymouth that has a commuter rail, but the public comment period, I've encouraged him and others to actually go to the public comment, which runs through March 31st of 2022. They will look at those public comments. We've already had discussions with the Executive Office of Housing to talk about the disadvantages, particularly in Plymouth of this. So I'm encouraged that I think there'll be some changes that will come out of this after the public comment period. So I'm going to move on. Well, one more thing I did want to say about housing, though. With regard to funding, there's about the opera funding we did about $4 billion. We just did a budget package just with the opera and funding that was surplus for the state. And we actually had, it's actually $4 billion spending, $2.5 billion in federal funding we're using from the American Rescue Plan Act funds, and $1.45 billion from the state fiscal 2021 budget surplus to make investments in communities throughout the Commonwealth. And $150 million will go through related state aid public housing developments, $150 million for developing permanent supportive housing. There'll be $115 million put aside for creation of affordable rental housing, $115 million to promote home ownership opportunities, $100 million for environmental infrastructure, and $100 million for water and sewer infrastructure. So I think it's a once in a lifetime opportunity that not only will the state budget have, lots of money in the budget for housing, but there's this extra one-time money from the federal government too that'll be used as well, and hopefully start kick off getting more housing. So I do want to just move on for real quick on the virtual meetings. I was asked to talk a little bit about this. As you know, COVID numbers are looking much better. We're around 2% of people that have COVID. One thing that I look at, I have a healthcare background. The one thing I always look at is hospitalizations, and the hospitalizations in the Commonwealth are under 500 right now. So we're trending in the right direction. But when we did pass some legislation back on a couple of weeks ago, the governor signed a couple of weeks ago, there were some extensions to the COVID legislation that was put out a couple of years ago. A couple of things, the Chapter 22 of the Act of 2022 includes an extension until July 15th of 2022 for the remote meeting for town meetings to have. So if you wanted to have a town meeting, you could have it remotely. You can't do hybrid, you got to do one or the other, but that still allows the opportunity to do that. It also still suspends certain provisions of the open meeting law, such as the requirement that a quorum of the body and the chair be physically present at the meeting, and locations remain suspended. So that is a little bit on the virtual meetings, but we are starting to get back to normal. At a meeting, we have a monthly meeting with the governor, and last month's meeting, he indicated it was the day after he had met with President Biden, and there's indications from Washington that we're probably going to be changing from a pandemic to an endemic sometime in early to mid-April. So that will change a lot of things, I think, for the better as we move forward. So one of the last things I want to talk about is the state budget. As Mary mentioned, I'm on the House Ways and Means, and so we started our hearings. We have several hearings in all different categories and listen to every secretary throughout the Commonwealth on the budgets that are being proposed. We're in the midst of that right now. We should finish up sometime by the middle to latter part of March. And then the House will go into session the week after April vacation. So it's around the fourth week of April. We'll go in session and we'll actually be debating the $43 billion budget. And we'll usually take about 3 to 4 days to actually do that. It will then move on to the Senate the third week of May. They'll debate, and then a conference committee will be put together for June to work out the differences between the House and the Senate budget before it goes to the governor. And as you know, ideally, it should be to the governor by before July 1st, so he can sign it by July 1st. Although historically, in the last several years, it hasn't been the case. It's been delayed. But we're hoping that this year we can actually get it on track, because the revenue money that we're seeing is above benchmark here in the Commonwealth. Still, year to date, we're projected to go 1.2 billion over projections for this fiscal year as it stands right now anyways. So hopefully there won't be much debate about that. So that's what I wanted to give you as an update, but to really emphasize that housing really is a priority that we are looking at. There is a second portion of the opera money that we'll be looking at later this session. I think we got $5.2 billion from the federal government. And as you heard me say, we spent about 2.55 of that so far. So there's still a couple, almost 3 billion still left. A lot of that we'll be talking about with transportation. So more to come on more opera funding money that'll be coming out. And that's the update that I wanted to give you today. I hope I didn't go. Mary?
Any questions? No, thank you so much. That was great. A lot of very good information. Do we have any questions for the representative?
No questions? How about this bill that's coming up? In fact, I'm going to make a motion on it. Governor Baker, the bill sponsored 2 bills, and that's that bill 4361 to help the seniors. So what do you think of that bill?
I'm not sure what, there's 6,000 bills, so I'm not sure what that one is. Can you tell me a
Well,
little?
it's a very important bill for the seniors. There's going to be sufficient changes, which I will.
Are they tax reductions? Are they tax benefits? Yeah, okay, yeah.
If I could, Representative, David Klein is later in the staff report is going to talk a little bit more about this, but we, as part of a regional planning agency, we're unique to the other 12 regional planning agencies where we have the area agency on aging as part of our team. And one of the things that David had brought up, and the committee members had seen it, but there was some legislation. The hearing was earlier today, right, David?
Yesterday.
Late yesterday, yeah.
Late
Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
one of the things, since it's a bit of a policy piece, one of the things that I was mentioning to David is that it should be brought forward to the council so they know, first of all, that they know about it. The hearing itself passed, but then there's an opportunity to have us as an organization weigh in to support said legislation. So
That would be terrific. Yeah, that would be terrific if you could do that. I'll tell you right up front, I approve all of it. I think it's a right time to actually do all this, particularly for our seniors. And from what I saw yesterday from the hearing, it all makes sense. I think, and I think even though that it's the majority of the committee is Democratic control, I think there was some good positive energy there and good questions that lead to believe that there could be some things that are happening that will come out of this. So very hopeful. Again, the timing is right because, as I said, we have $1.2 billion surplus. The time now is to start giving back a little bit, helping particularly seniors and veterans and other folks out.
that's great.
So I'll be
David,
advocating for it.
And I think what David's going to do later in the staff report, President Joy, is that he's going to talk a little bit more about it. And I know that he's talked to Eldon specifically. That's why I think Eldon wanted to make that motion now, but I would recommend that we hold off till that portion because there may be some other questions for the representative.
Representative Moratori, it's so nice to have you in.
How are you, Commissioner?
Very good, thank you. It's very nice with all the information that you just gave us. It's very much needed. I like the idea that so many of you people are out in your communities and, you know, providing all this information for us and elderly people and all about the housing and transportation, especially through OCPC. I think that, you know, that's a couple of their niches right there that they control. And it's always nice that, you know, we have updated information. I greatly appreciate you coming in and giving us this update. Thank you.
My pleasure. I appreciate being invited.
Back to you, Christine.
All right, any other questions? All right, well, I've got a couple questions. All right,
Okay.
Representative, what do you think the Chapter 70 and Chapter 90 money is going to look like for the towns? Do you think it'll be up this year?
Yeah, I think it'll be up. I don't think it's going to be up significantly, for my liking at least. But you know, there's still work from the House side and the Senate side, so we're hopeful. I'm hopeful the House budget will come out with a higher turnaround for the Chapter 70, Chapter 90, Senate as well. I did think that the governor, you know, was okay, but I think we could do better.
Great, thank you. All right, I've got another question. If anybody else wants to put a hand up. The Community Compact has been a really good program. Do you see that continuing
I
to be
do.
funded? Okay.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, no, it's been a great thing, and absolutely. And again, I think that you know, it goes back to what our comments about housing. The more we can do together, instead of everyone being separate in their own little niche, their own little community, I think the better off we are. So yeah, anything we can do to do more togetherness, I think is helpful.
Yeah, that's great. The problems don't stop at the town lines. You know, we
They
all
don't. They
have the
don't.
same issues
Yeah.
and
I think people are.
challenges.
I think municipalities are beginning to see that as well.
Mhm.
They do.
Yeah, I think it's more of a global awareness that, you know, how we impact our neighbors and
Mhm.
working together. So great. All right, any other questions for the representative?
I'm just going to weigh in because I would be remiss if I didn't do this, but the district local technical assistant funding that the legislature has funded us. Lori Muncy oversees that, but it's been utilized for, like, say, for the town of Easton for a age-friendly community and developing that. There's a whole host of, whether it's open space plans or whether it's a municipal vulnerability. The dollars that we get are small, but it gets stretched because we have such talented staff here at Old Colony Planning Council. So it does cross over sometimes in transportation. And, you know, one of the things that we have talked about when we had then Madam Leader come before us, it was beginning of last year, and then she became an ambassador. But one of the things we talked about is really utilizing this group and one of the things that Frank Staffier and I talked about earlier is to have a committee of both staff and council members to formulate like a legislative committee. So we have that interaction, not only as a delegate, but those who are so we'd be looking to you, Representative, as well as others to maybe join us and figure out the best way how to communicate the priorities and perhaps even some earmarks within our region.
Yeah, you know, I know there's other organizations like the Assessors Association, others that actually do this. And I have to tell you, as a legislator, it's so helpful. I know the Farm Bureau does this. There's others that do with it, and the timing is, I think, is what's key to all this as well. As you know, as you heard me say, the budget's going to be in April. So for earmarks, it'd be nice to get information, you know, by March because we're starting to formulate our plans. But yeah, legislative priorities and all that, that would be huge. I'd be happy to help facilitate some of that, be part of that.
That would be great. And I think, Madam President, I think those are one of the things that we've also talked about when you and I would have our one-on-one meetings is really to cultivate that relationship. And so it's been a little bit difficult because of COVID, but you know, Matt, in terms of reaching out to you to kind of help devise the best way in terms of timing of the year. I know sometimes it's mornings better than later afternoon, but I would say that if there are any delegates, alternates who are interested, to let Christine and myself know.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And it tell you, you go to the top of the list when you have groups like that in front of you and you keep the priorities in order. It's just very helpful as legislators.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
And any other questions? All right, I've got one final question for you. Do you think that the ability to meet remotely will be eliminated as our numbers get better with COVID, and we'll be going back to meetings in person?
I do, and I'll tell you why. And the town of Plymouth is going through this now. This is somewhat of a split decision on our remote, on having remote or in-person town meeting April 2nd. That's coming up. Now, we did pass legislation at the House and the Senate, and the governor signed it a couple weeks ago. That does allow for remote participation through July 15th, as I mentioned. But there was hesitation among particularly the leadership of the House and the Senate about doing this. Because the thinking is we really need to try to get people back in person and start having, more interaction with the public as legislators. And so I do think that this will be probably the last time we'll see that extension. Again, because there was a lot of controversy about whether to even pass this bill or not. Originally, the bill was going to go to December 31st of 2022, and there was no way that was going to happen. So the compromise was July 15th. But with that said, this bill, and we asked the Attorney General for a ruling on this. She wouldn't comment on the ruling of it, only to say that it's really up to the town councils in the cities and the towns whether you want to have your remote town meeting this spring or not. It's not hybrid. It doesn't say hybrid.
Mhm.
It's remote. So the town of Plymouth, their town council, their opinion was that it's only this legislation only for remote. It's not hybrid. So you have to have remote or you have to do in person. So that's why I think it's not going to happen much longer.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I think President Joy maybe talked about, because we have, 17 communities from Plymouth to Avon, Stoughton. We have had better participation by way of a hybrid because it'll, right? So we have some folks
Sure.
who are in here. I think that, and it's interactive and it's open and it's publicized and it's posted. So, I'm sure that was part of the discussions that you had, but I would just say that at least in this case for regional entities, and I don't know, won't speak for Sandy in terms of county, but these regional entities, it does. And just getting folks to become alternates and delegates so we can keep things going has some challenges as well. So I
think, I was speaking more about cities and towns, but something like this makes more sense. And I think you'll be able to see some of that. So I think some of that may come out of it, the hybrid. A lot of good come out of COVID. This is one of them, that you're more participation in something like this. It's less people traveling around. Now, the question is going to be with votes and all that, how legal will they be? And that's something we're going to have to wrestle with. But I agree. I think this is a good format to do and allow for votes to be taken. As long as you can see the person, you can hear the person. So I think we'll have some more discussion about those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, seeing no hands. Thank you so much, Representative, for joining us, sharing so much great information. And I'm sure that we will be seeing you and working with you in the coming days.
All right, sounds good. Nice seeing you all.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Night.
All right, so let's get back to the agenda. So our next item is the minutes from our January 26, 2022 meeting. Those were sent out. Any questions or comments on the meeting minutes? All right, do we have a motion to accept the minutes as printed?
What? Say what you said.
Go ahead.
You were muted.
I'll make a motion to accept them.
I didn't
I'll
know.
second that.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as written.
Beautiful. Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. I think Sandy was in there and I'm not sure who made the original motion. Sandra, can you do roll call vote?
Sure can. Abington,
Accept.
Avon,
Accept.
Bridgewater, accept. Brockton,
Accept, excuse me.
Duxbury, East Bridgewater.
Accept.
Easton? No? Okay, Halifax, Hanover, no, Hanson,
Accept.
Kingston, Pembroke, Accept. Plymouth. Plimpton,
Accept.
Stoughton,
Except.
West Bridgewater,
Accept.
and Whitman.
Accept.
Thank you.
All right, so next we've got the financials.
Yep.
So Doug,
Megan?
did you have anything you wanted to add before Brenda jumps into the financials?
Well, I know I wasn't at the last couple meetings because of the issues with my house being built, but I know that my term is almost over, and we're trying to. What I'd like to do is before it ends, hopefully we can put somebody in place to run the finance committee and become treasurer. So I mean, if anybody has any questions or anything at all of what they think they're going to get into, please don't hesitate to reach out. I mean, it's really rewarding because you're looking at the finances of the Old Colony Planning Council, right? You're looking at raises and where the money goes and where the grants come from and all that stuff. So it's a lot of work in some aspects, but it is rewarding. So if you really do want to participate and really get into it a little more and you have questions, like I said, don't hesitate to ask. I'm here to help in any way I can.
Great, thank you, Doug, very much. Brenda, did you want to start with the financials?
Sure. Okay, we're going to start with the statement of expenditures report, which shows total expenses for the month at a total of $218,038.35. Moving on to the cash position report.
If I could, we have a new Vanna doing this, so I'm.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Megan is running through this, so just keep going, Megan.
Okay, so the next report is the cash position report, and Megan, the circled areas are the things that we ultimately highlight. Okay, cash position report shows income for the month of $806,879.37. Disbursements for the month were $548,137.74. The total cash available at month's end was $1,319,474.26. The OPEB account had a loss of $20,340.76, bringing the ending balance in the OPEB account to $919,598.25. Moving along to the budget resources report. Total receipts for the month being $806,879.37 brings the total cumulative receipts in FY22 to $1,595,644.47. Moving on to the AAA report. Pass-through cumulative billing recorded was $2,010,417. Pass-through cumulative receipts were $1,253,899. Ombudsman and admin cumulative billings recorded were $369,592. Cumulative receipts recorded total was $202,723. The volunteer transportation account, January beginning balance was $179,616.95. Total payments to volunteers were $1,217.29. Total donations received were $35, bringing the January ending balance in the fund to $178,434.66. Moving forward to the ROM January 22 statement and activity. The balance at the beginning of the month was $179,980.46. January receipts were $5,850, bringing the total ROM receipts to $47,695. January expenses were $3,513.09, bringing the total ROM expenses in FY '22 to $46,041.97. The ending balance in January was $185,677.69. Moving forward to the budget spend down report, page 1. Total FY '22 expenditures through the end of January were $1,199,881. Our spent to date percentage rate at the end of January was 50.67%. The ideal percentage in the 7th month of the fiscal year would be 58.38%. So we continue on a positive trend, showing a 7.7% surplus balance at the end of January. No changes on page 2 or page 3. And then lastly is the list of January's combined accounts payable checks that were processed. Does anybody have any questions about any of the financial reports? Okay, Mary, do you want me to move forward with the bank fraud report?
Can we vote on this first to accept
Oh,
it?
I'm sorry, I did the same thing last night. I'm just
No,
rush.
you're just so excited, Brenda, so
I know, it's
excited.
exciting stuff. We're gonna go.
All right, do we have a motion to accept the financial report from January?
Motion to accept. Madam Chairperson, that we second that motion.
Perfect. All right, so we've got a motion and a second. Sandra, can you do roll call vote?
Sure. Abington,
Accept.
Avon,
Accept.
Bridgewater, accept, Brockton,
Accept.
East Bridgewater,
Accept.
Easton, Halifax, Hanover, Hanson,
Accept.
Kingston, Pembroke,
If we could can we just go back to Kingston because Valerie just joined us.
oh, Valerie did, I'm sorry. Kingston,
Well, I missed what we're voting on.
We're voting to accept the financial reports that Brenda just presented on for January that were included in the packet.
Accept.
thank you. Pembroke, you accepted. Plymouth, Nottingham, Plimpton,
Accept.
Stoughton,
Accept.
West Bridgewater,
Accept.
and Whitman.
Accept.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. All right, so do you want to go into the Brenda's next item?
There were 2 items under financials as well. Brenda's going to talk about the fraudulent check that I had emailed everybody about, and then Doug Silvestri has another item to talk about a resolve.
Beautiful.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, the fraud report will be very brief. As you know, we had some fraudulent activity in our main checking account over the course of just February. Due to this fact, we are going to be going live with a Rockland account positive pay program tomorrow at 9:30 actually is when she'll be setting us up. And the way that works is that every check that we process will be uploaded to a positive pay portal right on the Rockland site in Excel form. And with that information, every check that's presented to the Rockland account to be cashed will be examined individually for any discrepancies, changes, anything at all that's not exactly what is on the list that we have sent. And if there are any discrepancies or changes, that check will be flagged and it will not be processed. And we will be notified immediately of any such discrepancies. And the cost for the positive pay is $100 per month. And again, that will be live with that that situation tomorrow at in mid-morning. And that's really about it on the bank report.
And just other than that, we've taken some steps and we're looking into security cameras. I did find out recently from the Metro South Chamber that they had some mail taken as well. We did have the police report, but that was already now 2 weeks ago, and I'm still waiting for the police department to come in to do some follow-up investigation. So trying to at least get some of the area businesses downtown to see if they've had any issues as well. So just some of the follow-up on that. But Brenda really did a yeoman's job, because for those who may not, she was working remotely, and then when all of this hit. And then I also just want to give kudos to Sean Noel for his work, because we were like getting emails, we're getting phone calls and just trying to deal with it. And just for all council members, it's been dealt with very swiftly, and appreciative of the staff who helped out. And I think the other item is going to be because it came from a item at the Finance Committee to the full council. Doug, did you want to bring that up? And Megan, I'm going to need the resolve to be up on the screen, please.
Yeah, so the Finance Committee actually voted to approve the resolve for the EDA application. And once it comes up on screen, we'll be able to go over it a little more to get some detail on it. But I guess we would need a motion to approve this resolve from the actual council.
Let Megan bring the resolve up. We had a lot going on for today's meeting. Megan, if you go into the financials, go into the finance meeting, because it was in the finance meeting.
The EDA grant folder.
Thanks, Doug. So if I could, this is one of the things that's required for EDA is in fact to have a just a resolution to justify that the fact that there's a cash match. So 2 years ago, we applied for funding for EDA. There was no cash match required. That's when we hired the economic recovery planner, and Dottie Fuginetti, who has been an extraordinary support and resource to us. That funding ends June 30th. So we are applying for additional funding. It's sort of like the sister application, but this time there's a 20% cash match. What the first thing that we did was in fact sit down with Charlie, Brenda, and I, and we confirmed that the 20% is in fact within our budget, and committed that we can do that over the next 2 years. And so EDA requires a resolve, and that's what this is. The Finance Committee took this in, and they made a motion to bring it to the full council.
Thank you, Mary.
Any questions for Mary on the resolve that we're looking to vote tonight, or hoping to vote tonight? All right. So seeing no hands, hearing no voices, do we have a motion to accept the resolution as submitted? And the way that this was voted last night was that if there were any minor changes that that Mary would make those, whether it's grammatical or just minor changes, but not changing the intent of the resolution.
So moved.
Okay, so we've got a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, second. Thank you, Doug. All right, Sandra, roll call vote.
Okay, Abington,
Accept.
Avon,
Accept.
Bridgewater, accept. Brockton,
Accept.
East Bridgewater,
Accept.
Kingston,
Accept.
Pembroke, Plimpton,
Accept.
Stoughton,
Accept.
West Bridgewater, and Whitman.
Accept.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Doug and Brenda for going through the financials. Mary, did you want to do the staff report?
I'm going to be really quick with this. This was filled with so much information that there's not enough time, and I know that we're running a little bit late. I'm always forgetting to really kind of talk about some of the things that are done on a day-to-day basis, but please take a chance to read this report. I'm going to skip over all of the administrative piece because there's lots of great things there. Other than we have our BSU intern, who Evan Sears, who was stolen by the city of Brockton. It actually wasn't stolen when the opportunity came. Evan and I did talk about he applying for the position. And so he starts next week, I believe, in the planning office. So I just wanted to talk about the great pipeline that we have from Bridgewater State University as well as Massasoit. We're going to be working with Christine to fill the vacancy on the council, and John Hayes, who is new, he's a new alternate from the town of East Bridgewater. He's the new alternate, so welcome, John. But just as Doug said, we will be looking to set up a nominating committee. I've just had chatted with Frank Staffier today. On March 8th, we'll be sending out notice. There will be a nominating committee to begin the nomination process for those that are interested in being part of either president, treasurer, or secretary. So please, I will probably be sending out a form, and if you can get those in relatively soon. So one of the other things that you don't know, because I'm always skipping over this, is that I sit on the executive committee of the T for Mass. There's a website, but with that comes $5,000 that come back to Old Colony Planning Council that we could use for whatever purposes. So they are once a month, and sometimes there's a couple of the subcommittees, but it's well worth the transportation piece, the social justice piece of that organization is well worth it for our region. I do want to be able to just kind of highlight, we've got some building needs. The epic snowstorm that we had, it was right up to our door. There's a lot of different things. We have someone who's interested in renting our back room. So I'm just going to keep passing over this, Megan. I'm going to go right to the AAA. And David, the only thing I really want you to do at this point is, as you saw, the picture above was a day of service. I just want you to focus on that legislation and just give a really high level overview, if you could, David, if you can.
Sure. So the governor, Governor Baker proposed some bills over the past few weeks, and one of them is called Bill number H.4361, an act to improve Massachusetts competitiveness and reduce the cost of living. So there's two prongs to it. The prong that we are focused on is the reducing the cost of living, because it impacts seniors and other lower income Massachusetts residents. So the bullet points under that bolded area show that the bill would double the maximum senior circuit breaker tax credit for over 100,000 lower income homeowners and renters age 65 and over. The credit is adjusted annually, but it's currently, the maximum credit is currently $1,170. So if that bill were in effect today, the governor has pointed out that it would raise the credit from $1,170 to $2,340. So that's a significant difference that people could get back. And as for people who aren't aware of it, the senior tax credit, senior circuit breaker tax credit is a refundable credit. So even if you don't have enough money to qualify to pay taxes, you could get money paid to you if you're a senior and you qualify for the credit. So it's a powerful tool. The second bullet.
Okay, go ahead, David.
Does anybody have any questions on that? The second bullet point would increase the rental deduction in Massachusetts. So for all renters, it's not age specific. Renters can currently deduct up to $3,000 of their rent. This increase would move that figure up to $5,000. The third bullet point is that this bill would increase the dependent care credit for Massachusetts families with dependents, and the dependents is age agnostic, so it could be a child or an older adult or what have you. I didn't include the figures in here, but they are in that the link right above that, the link for the bill. The fourth bullet point is also significant in that it would raise the threshold for no tax status. No tax status means that if you make under a certain income level, so for example, if you're single in Massachusetts and you're making under $8,000, I think that's the figure, then you don't have to file a Massachusetts state tax return. In this bill, the figure is raised from that, whatever that figure is, I'm calling it 8,000 to over 12,000. So it's about a 33% increase. No, 50% increase. 50% of 50% of 8,000 being another 4,000. And so it basically would mean that more lower income people would not have to file income tax returns and have to pay taxes. Those are the four prongs of the reduce the cost of living. Just to mention before we move on to any action on this, the improve the competitiveness part that the governor put into this bill was a reduction in the short-term capital gains rate from the current 12% down to 5%, which is the threshold for other income. And his feeling on this is that we need to be competitive with other states. And I don't think we should necessarily comment on that at all. I'm just mentioning that it's in there. And then the second part of that competitiveness is on the estate tax, to raise the threshold before you would have to pay estate tax. Currently in Massachusetts, it's 1 million. In this bill, he's offering that it would be moved up to 2 million.
So David,
again,
your recommendation is for us to write a testimony to support these legislation? Is that what you're looking for?
well, the legislation, but I really think that we should focus on just the part that we're interested in, not comment on the other part, because
So
this
let's- So just to save some time, just because we don't have this is not the whole meeting on this one, maybe if you can just try to shorten that to what we're looking for the council members.
I would, if the council members are amenable, I would ask that they support a motion to issue a letter of support for the reduction of the cost of living parts of bill number H.4361. Should I repeat that? I know a member would have to make a motion.
I think we're good.
Seconded, Frank Staff here.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second to send the letter of support for the items specifically that David mentioned regarding House Bill 4361. So Sandra, can you do, before we take a vote, okay, go ahead, Eldon, go ahead.
In a letter to the governor, with appreciation of him sponsoring that bill, because the seniors certainly need the help out there now. Everybody needs help, but especially the seniors. And I think this would be a good way to get some money back to them.
Yeah, agreed. Any other questions or comments before we take a vote on this by roll call?
I'm sorry, Christine, what was that vote on?
This is to send a letter of support on the reduction of cost provisions of House Bill 4361 that impact seniors.
Thank you.
Good job, Christine.
Sorry, thank you.
Okay, so Abington,
Accept.
Avon, Bridgewater, accept. Brockton,
Accept.
East Bridgewater, is East Bridgewater with us? Okay, we're gonna get down to Hanson,
Accept.
Kingston, Pembroke, Plimpton,
Accept.
Stoughton,
Accept.
West Bridgewater,
Accept.
and Whitman.
Accept.
Thank you.
And thank you, Council President and members. Just, I know it's a little unorthodox to do this in the middle of a staff presentation, but because of the timeliness, I appreciate that. And given the latitude, just to continue on with the community planning and economic development, Lori Muncy, the department chair, is on, the district local technical assistance program that was talked about with Representative Muratori and supporting them, the roundtable. So if we can keep going, the work that this team is doing is incredible. Just detailed 500-page reports that are so helpful to the various communities. And West Bridgewater, just because Eldon's here, but you can see every element of the of the districts are being dealt with. You know, the green communities, again, in terms of continuing to finance and waiting for some additional resources coming in. You know, and I just want to stop here for a second. We talked a little bit about the application that is being put forward to continue the work and the programming that Dottie's working on. But Dottie, if you can just say just a brief about the students that actually on here, there's another grant that being applied for that Dottie is leading on in terms of Northeastern University in terms of supporting the life sciences. But Megan, if you can just kind of, there we go. So Dottie and Joanne are working with the classes, 2 classes at BU. And Dottie, can you unmute yourself and just talk a little bit about the work and how you got connected, and since they're on here today?
Sure. So, you know, we all know, and especially if you're an elected official and you have to try to get public participation from the community to support something, or the work that we do at Old Colony Planning Council when we have plans and we want to get public participation and feedback, it's really hard. And sometimes there's only a couple people or not even anybody. And we think it's really important to try to target younger people, get them involved, get them ready to participate, get them in the process. So Joanne applied for a grant with Boston University to work with some of their students. And we have 2 classes that we're working with. One of them is a 2-week sprint class, and then the other one lasts a semester. So the challenge we gave the 2-week sprint class, we used Brockton as an example. And we said in a city like Brockton that has challenges such as language barriers and ways to reach people, let's hear your blue sky ideas for things we can do to really target people from the 25 to age 40 group. And so we've met with several, probably 6 or 7 small groups. They ask us questions, they're researching the city, and they're coming up with incredible ideas. So Samantha Abdelazam and Alex are here tonight from one of the classes. They came upon their own to learn more about the city. I have had the opportunity to hear some of the ideas, which I can't share because it's kind of a competition and I don't want to leak any of this exciting information, but I was blown away with the way these kids or these young people were thinking. Great ideas. Having younger people advise us on how to reach younger people sounds so simple, right? And very, very exciting. These kids really are our future, and every single group, they've been on time, respectful, thoughtful, prepared. It's just really incredible. So we should have some results for that, you know, that we can share after the next couple of weeks. Now, the other class, it's a bigger class. There's about 100 students on it that are going to work over the course of the semester. And they're going to do the same type of thing, but they're going to split it up for all the towns that we have, or the bigger towns at least. So we're going to try to create a public participation plan for our work for the communities that we serve. So if we're going to go do a presentation for a hazard mitigation plan in Bridgewater, we're going to have a template for how do we reach the younger people and older people, but particularly the younger people in that town. Who are the influencers? What's the best way to reach people? So it's been an incredible process, very exciting, and we're very energized by it. And I want to thank the BU students for being here tonight. It's very much appreciated.
Thanks, Dottie. So it is exciting as we continue on, and we have not bored them yet. So that's great to hear that the students haven't left us yet. But thank you very much, Dottie, for that brief overview. I would like to just kind of quickly go through the transportation but giving it to do. There's a lot of things that are coming up. There was a tip readiness day. There was a you know, they're working with the drone. And in fact, David, if you move your head, the picture that's behind you is taken from the drone of City Hall that's next to us. But the drone program is really taking an uptick. Lots of things in terms of data users group, and working across the state, working with MassDOT in terms of a whole host of things. But one of the most active pieces is also the road safety audit. If you have not had a road safety audit in your community, I'm surprised, but I think most of you had. And, you know, one thing that there was a testimony by Mark Tisdale from the town of Stoughton, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but his Bill McNulty attended a hearing, and on if you hold it right there, Megan, that would be great. But Bill McNulty attended a meeting, but Charlie's been asked to be part of an advisory group. And just Mark Tisdale was just blown away by the responsiveness of this team, the knowledge, you know, and this the general support. And that testimony really just kind of hits home because, right, you're just doing your job is pretty much what Charlie would be saying, but to have it go to the next level really is important to make sure like those pieces. So and it means like still the things like the old colony metropolitan area organization, you know, the JTC, the joint transportation, those meetings are still continuing with a whole host of demands. And as you can imagine what they may be, but thank you, Megan, you can continue going on to the road safety audit. And, you know, again, there's the new program in terms of what Ray is working on is the freight planning and action plan. And, you know, Charlie knows that in the finance committee, we talked a little bit about this, is that in September, there's some expected additional funds coming to the transportation from Mass DOT to the programming. So we're really looking at current staff and looking at how else we can be effective and maybe perhaps doing a little bit of some reorganization, but that comes with a whole lot of things. Ray Garino is on here along with Charlie, who's been dealing with the freight study. But again, it's not doing justice to the transportation team, but this staff report was put in your package, and I really highly recommend that you do take a look at it. The GIS information that is growing and growing as we're going along, and the need to having an overview. So Andrew Vidal put his bullet points in here. And lastly is the septic management program. We're continuing to work with the different communities. It's a need. It's not a moneymaker by any means, but it's filling a need. So I believe that is it. And I think, Megan, there's just a couple other slides after this. It's the next bullet, next item on the agenda, madam. Oh, you know what? We'll also be putting out a newsletter about this, the Massachusetts Climate Assessment. And there are some meetings coming up next week, March 1st, 3rd, 8th, and 9th. Just want to let people know about it. And what was the other item, Megan, that's behind this one? Is there anything else? Yep, but keep going, sorry. Nope, I guess that's it. The next item.
Mary, it was the earmarks.
Yeah, and what we'll do for the sake of time, we'll just send an email out with informing that of everybody. If you can just go to the environmental, because that will be up after the staff report. And that's.
Thank you, Mary, Charlie, and staff for the great work that you're doing. It is truly appreciated. Thank you so much. So Mary, did you want to hit on the environmental report?
I do. And again, these were in the package as well. The new project is the Lincoln Park in West Bridgewater. Eldon, you would probably want an interest, have an interest in this, but it's a development of 350,000 square feet, potentially being used for a 100,000 square foot warehouse. If you can read through this a little bit quickly, is that the project's designed to serve the needs of development in the region. So it is a new project and has an FEIR. And I believe that we're going to be talking to Eldon about providing some comments on this. So Charlie, did I get that one right? Was there any other item on this one?
Well, the good news here is this is rolling through the environmental review process. So it's at the final environmental impact report stage. And thankfully, the developer of this is providing mitigation to signalize the intersection of 106 at Crescent and Lincoln Street and to align that into a four-way intersection. So it's actually refreshing to see the developer providing the mitigation and not looking to MassDOT to pick up the tab for this.
Right. Thank you. And I know that Eldon had something to say.
Well, yes, I have a comment to do. I was on the board of selectmen many years, and not that I want to criticize anybody, but I guess I got plenty of room there to criticize. That went in there without anything coming out to the taxpayers at all. Came up before the town meeting. When I was on the board, we would get these businesses come in. We'd try to work with them there. We got issues there with the very narrow street there, going down there. There's water issues, there's traffic issues, everything. None of this stuff was addressed at that time. Now it seems to be after the fact. Now they're going after it. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Lincoln Street, that's the last street there on the left before you get to the highway. Very sensitive area, all kinds of things that have happened, even across the street from us there. And what I can see there, you know, if you're gonna let businesses come in there or something like that, I always look for something too in return. I mean, that light is gonna cost a lot of money there too, and it needs to be done. I tried it one time there in Crescent Street there, no left turn. I was turned down by my own chief. That's not necessary. Well, that's unbelievable, that traffic that's going up there. And now they got some kind of a high rise or something across the street next to the donut shop. That is a terrible mess up there. And I don't know, now they're gonna try to go in there now and try to resolve some of these problems, and it's more after the fact. When they were right there, they could have resolved some of them, and nothing was done. And
Eldon, maybe.
then you've got, could I say one thing? Then you got the backup coming up from Industrial Park in Bridgewater that comes up the back roads, and you know, they have a total mess up there. That's what I can say. And I'll be talking along the line here, but they didn't inform the taxpayers of what was going on down there, and it was just overnight in there. They asked to vote there, and the vote was taken, and that was it. And that's not the way to run it down.
Eldon, maybe what I would recommend is maybe that you and maybe perhaps Charlie, and we can get the town manager, David Gagney, just to kind of sit and look at and review this, and if needed to provide some feedback, but we'll take that and before the next step. So that's why we bring this up today.
Well, I got a lot of experience in that area there, so I certainly, this is my first project, and that's why I got a reason to criticize, because the way that thing was done, and that wasn't the way we were doing things, you know. But all of a sudden, everything has changed, and of course, you know, who's going to pay for it at the end is the taxpayer. It's going to come out of the people who pay the taxes. I mean, because it's going to come out of somewhere. I mean, they do have a big problem there. So yeah, I'll look forward, and like I said, I'm willing to work with anybody there, and I've worked with a lot of people over the years, and maybe I didn't always do what I
Great,
like
that
to
sounds
do.
great, Eldon. Awesome that Mary and
I'm
Charlie will work
I'm
with
there to
you.
assist if you need anything like that, and I have a lot of experience in that area.
Perfect.
We'll talk right after the meeting. The other two public notices, the notice of application is the one that's in Plymouth, and then the other one is in Kingston. And I know that Valerie is on this, so we will, those are just for information. So that is all that we have for the announcements for the environmental notification.
All right, Mary, how about retirement legislation? Any update?
Just, we had a MARPA meeting just yesterday, and the end of session, there is still discussion just between the State Retirement Board and the association. So that is, my intention is that we're going to continue to work with our local legislators. So, but that's that on that.
Great, thank you, Mary. All right, we already did number 8, financial was you want to speak to this, or was Doug speaking to it?
I think just a general overview from the financials that we had. This is when we were talking about the OPEB, and I think many of you might be expecting that we were having these presentations and a decision is going to be made. Well, what happened was we continued to dig into this, and more information is needed. There isn't a trust that is in place, but it's outdated. The law has changed 5 or 6 times since then. We, by the vote of the finance meeting, that we did consult with Murphy, Hesse, Toomey Lahane. We're engaging them. They're going to be putting together a draft, and they will be coming to the March meeting to present the template for a new trust that is updated. So, because right now what we have exists, but it's outdated. So we'll have more to come. We will also be inviting you to the next finance meeting if you're interested in knowing more. But that really is that I put it under financial policy. It really is the trust, but it's all under that roof. So that's really all that we have.
Great, thank you, Mary. How about personnel policies?
And Stephen, the chair is here. I don't know if you wanted to give an update, Stephen, just of the last meeting.
I tell you, this is Stephen. We just went over the last personnel committee. We talked about the personnel policies, making some updates. So I think we're going to meet again in March to kind of tie those things up a little bit. So nothing much more to say on, except I want to thank some of the staff that have provided some comments on the personnel guide. And again, we're going to meet again in March to kind of tie some things up, but that's all I really had to say. Nothing much. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Stephen. All right, so any suggestions for future meeting agenda items?
I do, Madam Chairperson. I'm going to be working with Mary next week, and we are going to set up the nominating committee for, as Mary said before, March 8th, 5:45. Now, the reason that we would like to have as many applicants as we can, and we hope we fill every spot, the nominating committee would like to come back at the last meeting in March and give you a slate of offices so that we can move forward, Chris. And so if anybody has any desire to be on one of the positions or the executive board, such as chairperson, secretary, or treasurer, if they will let us know by the 8th of March, we will try to get it all worked out for the 23rd, Chris, and we'll be able to present a complete board to you.
Great, thanks, Frank. Yeah, I love that. That's a great idea. I'm glad you guys are starting that process. All right, so we'll have a recommendation or a slate of candidates from the nominating committee at our meeting in March. As Mary stated, we're going to have Tom from Matt from our attorney to talk about the trust that we'd like the council to take a look at and talk about some recommendations. Anything else that you would like to see on the next agenda or an upcoming agenda? Any other topics from anyone?
Christine, how about inviting District Attorney Tim Cruz in to talk about elderly and scamming and some of the things that are going on throughout our communities?
Mary, do you think we would have enough time for him on this agenda, or would it be better to do maybe April or May?
It may be more April or May, and we just heard the district attorney speak before the city council. He had numbers for across the region that would blow you away. So so what we'll do is if it's not for the March, then for April.
Great suggestion, Sandy. Perfect. Anything else? All right, very good. So sounds like we've got.
I'd like to tell you that I've been victimized with stealing like you wouldn't believe, and it's still going on. And in fact, I got to talk to my son because he's in that business as far as the internets, and I've got to set up something. I had maybe about 5 buckets of tools, and they all disappeared. As I am here tonight, dear, my thoughts are at my house there. And I'm up here at a meeting and, trying to help the community out. And here, listen, whatever I have, I've always said, if you want what I have, you ask me and I'll give it to you, but don't steal it off me. And this was 5 bucket loads of wrenches, and nobody knows what and this isn't something that it's just this year it's going to happen. There's a real thief out here, and I'll tell you right now, it's just a matter of time. And I don't know if people realize that's what my youngest boy does for a living. And they're going to continue. Eventually, they're going to be caught.
Perfect. Well, Eldon, sounds like we'll be able to talk about this, and that Tim Cruz will have some good suggestions.
This isn't something that's just started this year.
Oh, I know.
Going on for a while.
But awareness is going to be key, and making people aware of what just small things and big things they can do to protect themselves, both at home and online. And hopefully he's got some good suggestions for us to implement so that we can all stay safe and not be victims to fraud or theft or any crime.
And Eldon,
said-
we can talk after the meeting's over about some
yeah.
things that we can implement.
Like I said before, anything you want that I've got, you ask me, I'll give it to you. You don't have to steal it.
Thank you, Elton. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so our next meeting will be the Finance Committee meeting on March 8th. There will be a meeting of the Nominating Committee on March 8th. I'm sorry, Finance Committee is March 22nd at 5:45. And then the full council will be meeting on March 23rd at 6. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, second, awesome. Thank you everyone so much for coming. I know you've got very busy schedules and for making the time for the important work we do. Thank you all so much for coming. All right, have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.